Welcome to the Unshielded podcast, where we explore the importance of rational privacy through the application of data protection and zero-knowledge technology.
Welcome to Unshielded, the podcast where we explore the cutting edge of blockchain, digital assets, and the technologies shaping the future of decentralized finance and privacy. I'm Ian Kane, head of partnerships for Midnight and host of the Unshielded podcast. Today, I'm joined by Demetrios Skalkotos. He's Chief DeFi and Protocol Officer at Blockdaemon, the institutional gateway to Web3, securing over $100 billion in digital assets for 400 plus institutions worldwide, including exchanges, custodians, and major banks. Prior to Blockdaemon, Demo co-founded Expand Network. It's the world's unified API connecting clients to all major DeFi protocols, which was acquired by Blockdaemon back in May of 2025. In this episode, we'll dive into Demo's journey in the DeFi space, his work scaling Blockdaemon's institutional blockchain infrastructure, and the innovations driving adoption, security, and interoperability across decentralized finance. Demo, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the Unshielded podcast. We're going to jump right into things. So for those listeners that maybe don't know who you are and what do you do, who are you? What do you do at Blockdaemon today? Give us a quick background on your bio.
Hey, and thank you for this. Really appreciate the opportunity. This should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm Demo. It's short for Demetrios. I am now second tour of duty at Blockdaemon, just returned via an acquisition. I'm currently now Chief DeFi and Protocol Officer here at Blockdaemon. So I head up the key relationships with all the 85 foundations and protocols that we interact with and support as part of the overall Blockdaemon offering, as well as my previous company, Expand.Network, was acquired by Blockdaemon, and it provided a middleware connectivity layer for anything you wanted to do in DeFi, trading, lending and borrowing, sourcing on-chain data, and staking. So managing those two efforts currently today at Blockdaemon, which is super exciting.
That's cool, man. And Blockdaemon's been in the space for as long as I can remember. You guys have a fantastic reputation. But in case there are one or two people out there that just don't know who Blockdaemon is, who are you guys and how do you position yourself in the broader landscape?
Yeah, Blockdaemon is an 8-year-old OG in the space. Started out from running nodes, node infrastructure, supplying connectivity to, the Bitcoins and Ethereums and the Solanas and soon to be Midnights of the world. So we're really the gateway for decentralized economy. And once we started running nodes, it was easy to kind of morph into a staking business too, as well as kind of next evolution for us, which is probably still our largest business unit. And then 3 years ago, we bought an MPC wallet company called Sepior out of Copenhagen. And that's been a key technology for us to kind of vertically and horizontally integrate further within the ecosystem by offering up secure technology, wallet technology infrastructure. And then the latest acquisition, which was the DeFi one, Expand.Network, my old company, coming into Blockdaemon. So 4 really business units, you could say 5 if you want to count the protocol foundations that I currently run. It's really strategic what we do with each foundation and how we strategically help them and partner with them and establish go-to-market infrastructure for them. So for us, 8 years in the space, we have a great deal of customers and people on our cap table, like Microsoft and PayPal and Plaid and A16Z and Goldman and Citi and B2C2 and Coinbase and the like. So super excited about being that institutional provider in the space and kind of one of the OGs in the space as it pertains to providing secure infrastructure.
Man, that's a good Rolodex. That's a good Rolodex of names you got right there. I like the name drop. I want to get into all the Blockdaemon stuff, but
yeah,
you personally, I'm curious, what's your origin story? I always like to understand people that have been in the space a long time, how they get into it. What was the aha moment for them?
I blame one of my old NASDAQ cohorts back in the day. He's like, you got to get into this after I was done working for both NASDAQ and NYSE for a bit. And he parachuted me into a couple kind of consulting gigs to get my feet wet because it pertained to some things that I ran at both exchanges that were trying to be done within the digital asset landscape. But really the origin started for me is when in 2018, I started working for Ledger and working directly with Pascal and the team at Ledger, running the Ledger Enterprise Custody Vault Tech platform, where we were providing custody technology for a lot of the banks and folks and custodians to build their custody infrastructure off of the Ledger Enterprise technology. So that was that was a fabulous experience working for a French-based firm and really building out that whole product and sales efforts for a business unit that they were trying to get into and kick off the ground, which was fantastic. So that was from 18 to 20. And then from 21, I met Constantine while I was at Ledger and came over to run sales for Constantine at Blockdaemon from 21 to 23. I built out the entire global team, really had a wonderful time doing so. And then had an opportunity to really go be a CEO. Got to punch that ticket every now and then to just see if I could do it. And so Cumberland and DRW were incubating this particular DeFi infrastructure company that they wanted someone to take it out of stealth and raise some money and go to market. So I did that from mid 23 to now coming back kind of 2 years later, coming back into the Blockdaemon Infocal after the acquisition. So been in crypto since 18, a lot of experiences, I would say, cutting my teeth with a very reputable company like Ledger to begin with was great. And then obviously moving over to the staking and infrastructure side and wallet side with Constantine has been a true pleasure working with him and for him, building out everything that we can do at Blockdaemon. It was fun, kind of running a DeFi company in a previous administration with a lot of headwinds. It was challenging nonetheless, but we had some really good success.
So you've been in the space a long time. You've honestly, you've worked for like a great names so far. What has been like, if you have to like kind of summarize it, what's been like the one biggest takeaway you've learned from kind of building businesses specifically in like the DeFi infrastructure space?
I think as it pertains to me as well as pertains to company, I think you have to keep a few things in mind, right? You have to be mindful of how you interact with people and how you interact with companies and prospects and the venture community. You have to be super respectful. You have a reputation to uphold. It's a small universe. So for me personally, my reputation and the company's reputation is paramount. And I can say that I have worked for, 2, 3 very reputable companies, obviously in Ledger and Blockdaemon that do it the right way. Are mainstays and want to do things the right way. And by doing it the right way, you have to keep kind of security a kind of paramount front of mind when you're building something, especially when you're selling things to the big institutions that Midnight and Blockdaemon kind of go together and talk to, right? If I'm going to talk to Goldman and JP and Citi and SoftBank and those folks, you have to have security as front of mind. So, and you have to build that in kind of from day one. In my opinion, it's not something that you can kind of do kind of down the road as an afterthought, especially if you know your product market fit, you know who you're going after, you know the customer profile that you want to get. It's really going to be your reputation and how you look at compliance and security and how you build that from day one into your product set. So those are the things that I think I've learned over the years, that those things go hand in hand from a security, compliance, reputation standpoint, that you have to design these principles from day one, and you have to do it in multiple layers of depth, which we do at Blockdaemon. You just can't have, you can't just talk about it. You have to actually execute it and do it.
Yeah, and that's actually great. That was gonna be my next question, actually, and maybe this kind of dovetails into it. But like, so Blockdaemon, right? You guys work with like major exchanges, major custodians. You've got some of the best banks in the world as clients, and they're also on your cap table. I'm curious, what from like a blockchain infrastructure perspective, right? What differentiates the needs of, let's say, like institutional blockchain customers versus like maybe more, or say like retail focused or smaller developers? Like, is there one thing that like the needs of institution greatly outweighs in this sector, whereas retail is maybe a little less focused on it?
Yeah, I think from the standpoint where you're looking at institutional infrastructure, it isn't always just about uptime. Obviously, that's one component. It's about the trust that we talked about before. It's about compliance. It's about interoperability. It's about your reputation, because you are really that trusted confidant with those particular firms, because they're selecting you as one of their key vendors to provide key infrastructure so they can execute on their goals for them, their corporate goals, as well as for their their customers. So, retail solutions, optimize for accessibility. Our institutional systems, we have to guarantee auditability, security, continuous continuity across all jurisdictions. We have to comply not just with U.S. regulations, but we have to be mindful of European Middle East and African regulations and APAC regulations, and we have to take that all in. So for us, building that plumbing for institution depends on all those components. So SOC 2 compliance, ISO compliance, making sure that we adhere to top SLAs, make sure that we KYB all of our customers, make sure that when we're filling out those security questionnaires for all those key vendors, we're answering truthfully, and we can stand up to all those things that they're asking us to do. So that's really kind of, working with partners like Midnight really helps ensure that privacy compliance framework that are not afterthoughts. They have to be front of mind and top of mind, and they have to be core design principles into what we're offering to our customers.
God, some of those documents are just like pain. You get them and they're like 8 pages and you're just like, oh no. And
Now,
it's crazy. Like I could really sympathize with what you guys have done, right? Because you've got all these different foundations, all these different regulations around the world, some of the biggest names in the space that frankly, you want to do a great job for, and just being able to like Frankenstein that all together is man, it's a massive task. So I can
it is,
sympathize.
and we've got it down to a science and using a lot of tools that help us, do these things for the customers. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. But we pride ourselves in really having a pristine and really cool customer base that are really trying to do cool things within in the TradFi and DeFi world and the digital asset space, and they're moving over, and we're seeing that take fruition, slowly, but it's coming.
Yeah, it's good. Good things take time, man.
It
So,
does.
so going back, you were CEO of Expand Network. Constantine sees that. He's like, I need that over at Blockdaemon. I'm curious, what are, if I understand correctly, you guys were offering kind of a unified API. What are like the key advantages for offering that unified API for DeFi protocols?
I think for us, the problem that we were trying to solve is that institutional adoption of DeFi. When the regulatory landscape was trying to turn and turning, is that space is massively fragmented. There's tons of components into it, whether you're talking about lending and borrowing and earn capabilities on USDC and USDT and other assets and Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I have to swap assets from one thing to another. And I want to do it on chain, on a similar chain, or I want to do it on a different chain. You have to connect to bridging, and you have to connect to DEXs, and you have to connect to oracles for pricing, because it is decentralized, which in essence can mean some fragmentation. So it's hard to find the right things. Whereas a retail consumer, they just may say, hey, I'm just going to go to this particular DEX. They do the vast majority of the volume. It's fine for me. Whereas for people that want price discovery, they want to see pricing across multiple DEXs at one time to make sure that that swap that they're doing gets the best price. They want to see a potpourri of earn capabilities to say, I want to earn on my USDC and USDT, who's offering the best price. They may offer the best yield, but what's the risk component to that? I want to stake my assets. So they're looking for a platform that we were trying to solve, to say, I can go to one spot with one abstracted API and I can stake. I can do my liquid staking. I can lend and borrow. I can trade my assets, and I can source all the data that I need to make those proper trading decisions. And oh, by the way, being institutionally focused, you can look at the trading decoder so you can make sure that the trade is going to the right place and the right address at the right amount to the right person. And then you can factor in now with Blockdaemon all the OFAC compliance capabilities too as well. So make sure you're not sending to an inappropriate, wallet somewhere that's not approved. So those were the things that we were trying to solve. And we fit perfectly back in to the Blockdaemon offering, because they really wanted to get into the enhance the staking capabilities with other earn offerings. And they were a customer anyway. So it just was a perfect fit and another component that we can offer to our customers. Because as you know, Ian, when we go talk to these institutional customers, they talk with a gazillion vendors. And if they can consolidate their vendor footprint and manage their expenses and work with one vendor and solve multiple problems versus, oh, I've got to talk to a staking vendor, or I've got to talk to a node infrastructure vendor. Oh, I've got to talk to a wallet vendor. Oh, I've got to talk to another vendor for stablecoin stuff and on ramps. With Blockdaemon, you can kind of solve a lot of those things in kind of one fell swoop. and you can consolidate your vendor footprint, and you can work with us as a trusted supplier and really extend your budgets.
That's crazy. How so? Okay, there's 700 blockchains out there.
Yeah.
There's probably 100 with maybe some real activity going on. Uh, and it's so funny. I remember, when I got into the space, it's like, you do a cross chain bridge of, let's just say USDC, because you want to go yield farm something, you bridge up, the liquidity pool is not deep enough, huge slippage. And then you get there, you don't have enough gas in that wallet to actually move the USDC to do something. And it's like, these are kind of some of the friction points that I think the industry as a whole is working through. I'm curious, but expand, like, how do you guys maintain connectivity with 100 plus chains? Are you working directly with those foundations? Is it just simply a technical solution, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so we work directly with the foundations. We try to establish a very strategic partnership because we are one of the conduits for them into the marketplace, right? So we want to work with them to supply all the node infrastructure that their VCs and their constituents and customers may need. So I think we're still really the only node infrastructure vendor out there that actually provides dedicated full nodes if clients want dedicated full nodes. Most folks now on the node side are really just providing kind of RPC and API access, which we do as well. But in some instances, for some of these institutions, they want their own node. That's the way their security profile works, and we have to supply that for them. So you have that node connectivity. And then if they are a proof of stake protocol, then we provide the staking capability from a white label, a validator for public consumption. We can do white label validators for some of their key customers and constituents that just want their own validator for staking that asset. And we usually run validators for the foundation in and of itself to help work with their treasury management and their diversification of things of what they're trying to do. And then if we can work with them in supporting their chain within our wallet infrastructure, that is perfect, because our wallet is being adopted by a lot of the large banking institutions out there now. So supporting that underlying chain and protocol is key. And then on the DeFi side, if there's DeFi components, then yes, we want to integrate that all in. So again, we can cover all those things with a protocol and a foundation, really be strategic, and then help them from a go-to-market perspective, similar to kind of what we're having discussions with you, Ian, on the Midnight side. Is we want to go after these customers together. As you're talking to them, we service them. How do we do this together and satisfy a need to get people excited and be able to build on Midnight and be able to kind of solve some of the key problems that they're trying to solve for themselves and their customer base.
I love that. And that's honestly, man, like when we got the conversation started around just working together, it's like you guys just have some great brands, and you guys have, like, the clients that we envision using Midnight are the clients that you guys are working with as well, right? And we talked about, compliance is important for these institutional clients, right? Like the big banks, they would have come on chain a while ago, but they don't like the transparency aspect. They like the privacy. So like that's obviously a need that Midnight fills. When you think about, you got like the trifecta, right? You've got security, you've got regulatory alignment. Security is obviously paramount. Like, how does Blockdaemon just as a whole, how do you think about that trifecta all coming together? Because sometimes, like when you're at a tech company, right, it's like you want to move fast, you want to break things, right? But at the same time too, these big institutions, they want to make sure you've crossed the T's, you've dotted the I's, you're doing it the right way. So how do you guys balance those like kind of three pillars?
Yeah, it's similar to the kind of what we talked about before. You really can't compromise. You have to really design your defense mechanisms in multiple layers of depth, and you have to have that from the beginning of your architecture to the end of the architecture. So we kind of call it like defense in depth architecture. So it's multi-layered security modeling. You've got 10 plus independent security controls that we have from development through runtime. You've got no single points of failure. Even if one layer is compromised, others have protective systems maintained in them. You got secure software supply. We have a very secure, a very big CISO organization. Our CISO came from a very big traditional financial firm, and so we had lots of controls being put into place. So you're always constantly self-testing. You're using third-party vendors to test. We want to make sure our software is secure, so we do tons of penetration testing, and we do continuous vulnerability scanning across the entire ecosystem. So we really have we take you compromise nothing. It's really key to the industry that our reputation is paramount and that we're doing this on behalf of ourselves and behalf of our customers. So
Yeah.
very
And the
protective.
CISOs, dude, the CISOs have like a thankless job, right? It's like they keep you safe. And when things are good, nobody, like it's all good. There are no problems. And then as soon as something goes wrong, the CISOs are like, well, what's going on? So it's so funny. I remember, in
They mess up your development cycle too.
man, like, how much 2FA do I have to do? How many VPNs do I have to log in through? But, look, they keep us safe and it's the nature of working in this space. So,
Yeah.
shout out to all the chief security officers. And
I've got clients asking for this, and this, and they're like, well, we got to do this one from security first, that on security second, that on security third. I'm like,
yeah.
okay. All right. I
There,
know my place.
Are there any, like, I don't know, past, like, there have been a lot of like public security incidences, but are there any that like in particular, like Blockdaemon was like, hey, that one was a little close to home. This other competitor that's maybe no longer business, like anything that you've seen in the space where you've learned from and you're like, hey, we should actually adapt or change our systems to ensure that never happens to us.
Yeah, look, we want the overall landscape to all of us to succeed. We want the tide to rise all boats, right? We don't want to see anybody, be hurt in any way, shape, or form. But some people have certain ways of doing business. Some people may not have the strict regulatory requirements like we have. We're a US based domiciled firm, right? We have certain things that we have to adhere to that others that may be incorporating in different parts of the world that they may take a different view on things. Like I said, we've been ISO 27001 certified for as long as I can remember. It's been well over 5+ years. SOC 2 type 2 compliant. We adhere to a lot of the node consortium things, to making sure we're there. We know we have audited financials. We have a lot of those big banks that are on our cap table or on our board. So, we adhere to these things kind of from day one. So we don't obviously wish ill will on anybody. We want everybody to succeed because overall we need that for the whole ecosystem to succeed, right? We're still in the infancy. We're still trying to create a reputation and a brand and trying to solve real world problems here. So there's always going to be kind of puts and starts. There's always going to be companies that do well and some companies that have a hiccup here or two. But, for us, we take everything in, we assess everything. We partner our CISOs, partner with other corporate CISOs to make sure if we're detecting any particular vulnerability or something's going on within the ecosystem that we're seeing and hearing, we share that wealth with everybody. And people have been very receptive in including us in those conversations too, when they've had the unfortunate incident as well. So it's very collaborative in that regard, which is, I think, cool about our space.
No, without a doubt. And you guys have a great reputation. You've got the staying power. And I mean, that speaks volumes to, what you and the team over there are doing. And so, kudos to you guys. And I'm sure it'll continue into the foreseeable future. We talked a lot about kind of the banks you work with, some of the larger Web3 native players. When you think about privacy specifically, what are you hearing from, let's say, institutions, the ones that are maybe kind of dipping their toes in the water of like institutional DeFi? Is privacy something where they're like, we need privacy, we're not coming on chain without it? Or they're like, ooh, privacy, that's scary to me. I've heard bad things about privacy. What are you seeing in this space?
Yeah, I think it's a narrative that I think we're going to continue to articulate on and refine. But I think privacy in the messaging that I think you and I need to do, as well as the industry needs to do, it really isn't about hiding, right? Privacy is not about hiding, right? Privacy is really about controlling what you want to reveal and what's appropriate to reveal to whom and why, right? That's really the cornerstone of kind of institutional trust. There are certain things that, yes, we want to share and we want to post that trade and let the back office system kind of clear that trade and share those details. But how we got to that trade and the pricing for that trade may be something people want to control and create in a private amount. So I think privacy needs to be an enabler. And I think by offering up certain privacy controls and privacy technology, like what Midnight is building, is going to be paramount to bring traditional finance and the components of traditional finance more comfortable into the digital asset landscape. And I think what you guys are building gives institutions confidence It gives them a way to participate in digital assets and in DeFi without risking, their data exposure and regulatory breaches. So I think it's really cool. But I think it's it's been a continuum. It's been kind of a lot of starts and stops, and there's privacy chains, there's public chains, and now there's kind of best of both worlds kind of coming together. And I think that's where it needs to be. But again, we're not trying to hide things. We're just trying to protect data and protect, what is appropriate to reveal and what is not.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because, you think about it's a sliding scale, right? And you've got like the Tornado Cash and Moneros of the world. And of course, banks aren't going to use that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Then what's the
Yeah.
other option? Like stand an off-chain world, maybe a permission consortium. That doesn't really work. And, we talk a lot at midnight and when we're pitching people, it's like, we talk about this concept of rational privacy. Is like, Demo, if I'm doing a transaction with you, I want to be transparent with you and I want to be transparent with the regulator, but I don't want to broadcast to the entire network. I'm, moving $1 billion in stables to you because information is power and people are going to use that to trade against me. I think it's all about kind of explaining that there is a healthy balance, right? And some systems need to be transparent, right? And that's like one of the benefits of the blockchain. But if we are serious as an industry about bringing these institutions on chain, we need to adapt and we need to ensure that we are offering privacy, but in a regulatory compliant way. I'm curious when you guys think about how you're building your systems, and it sounds like some of the clients that you work with are at least conscious of privacy and it's something that they're looking for. Do you take that into account as to kind of how you're building out these systems, how you kind of adapt to some versus others?
Yeah, we have to. I think at Blockdaemon, we see privacy kind of as the missing layer for institutional infrastructure, right? It's critical to protecting trade flows. You have to protect your client identities, their risk strategies, kind of their secret sauce, right? So we're super excited, like I said, for what you guys are doing in the space. I think what Midnight is building is kind of bringing the best of those both worlds together. And I think we're going to learn a lot, moving forward as you kind of get through your testnet and mainnet launch and really what institutions are wanting and demanding of you and what the cool applications and great trading things and DeFi capabilities are going to be able to build on top of Midnight. So yes, we take that in from day one, but it's really partnering with the foundations like you that are doing all the heavy lifting. We're here to be supportive, built out the infrastructure that your customers want and that your VCs want and your ecosystem wants, so we can proliferate that to many across the globe. And that's what we're excited about working with you guys on.
Oh man, me too. Yeah, I'm curious. You've got a good lens. So you guys work with so many foundations. DeFi is something that's obviously very important for Midnight. We're going to build out a very robust DeFi ecosystem. But I'm curious, like DeFi means many things to many different people, right? And are there certain things that you're seeing right now, specifically in the DeFi space, where you're like, man, that's cool. I haven't seen somebody do that before. And it could be in terms of like interoperability. It could just be some new perp exchange for meme coins. Like, what are you seeing in this space?
It's definitely institutional DeFi is maturing. And I think the regulatory landscape in the United States and some of the things that have passed, and I think things that will be forthcoming in passing has helped a lot. I think, it started out as staking, and then now people are like, okay, how else can I earn on top of staking, right? I have stable coins, on-chain funds, real world assets, all these things need to have some type of an earn component, but it also needs to have kind of a very transparent risk scoring component too as well, right? So there's a lot of things that are out there. So what excites me most is really kind of the merger of that kind of that performance and privacy, where institutions can kind of finally operate on chain with the confidence of the privacy that you guys are building. And really seeing that merge between TradFi and DeFi. So all those real world things within TradFi are now coming into the on-chain and privacy chain world, which is great. So again, it's not about hiding. It's really about controlling all those components of what people can see. So I think at the end of the day, TradFi will be able to merge with DeFi and digital assets because you guys are advancing key technologies that bring privacy and public disclosure to the forefront.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And seeing all this stuff blend together is very cool, where you've got DeFi, you've got the RWAs that are coming in, right? Usually those RWAs are a great way to kind of post collateral. And what do people do? They usually like kind of post that principal, take a loan, fold it up, yield farm something else. And now you've got the merger of like AI And obviously privacy becomes a really important thing because, one of the use cases that we're actually looking at is if you have a DAO and that DAO has a treasury of funds and they're doing things to grow that DAO treasury over time, or a private company, and maybe you have an AI agent that's actually working on behalf of that DAO to grow those funds. Well, if there's a winning strategy, what's everybody going to do? I'm going to grab that wallet, I'm going to copy trade it, and I'm going to try to make as much as possible. So what do you need? You need privacy, right? You need the ability to kind of shield and protect your winning strategies. But Dima, to your point, you still got to be able to go back to a regulator and say, hey, where'd this $100 million come from, right? And then actually show the trades and everything like that.
Yeah, so people, you're right. And there's going to be a lot of people to assess, but they want to earn, right? They're working hard, everybody's working hard, and they want, multiple things in kind of one platform. So they want their privacy, they want to be able to control the information that they share, but they from an infrastructure perspective, they want to stake, they want to lend and borrow, they want other yield bearing offerings, they want to access liquid staking, they want to be able to trade from one asset to another on chain or on a different chain. So all those things need to be at the forefront and at the fingertips of the trading community and the finance community to be able to offer them and kind of eliminate the fragmentation there, which is what we're trying to do.
So are there certain partnerships or protocols that Blockdaemon is very excited about, and you guys are very focused on ensuring that becomes part of your overall tech stack?
What I get excited is about bringing that traditional finance world into our world, where at one day it's not going to be called TradFi, it's not going to be called DeFi, it's not going to be called digital assets. It's just going to be finance. It's just going to be a better way of doing things with advanced technologies that provide privacy and public disclosure in a secure, compliant way. The more that we can create deeper and better use cases for the traditional finance to come into the digital asset landscape and solve real world problems are going to be huge for us. So those are the things that I'm excited about, is really continuing to see the momentum of the traditional finance world, not just working on pilots, they're actually jumping in with both feet and looking at solutions and building out use cases and taking things to customers. So the tokenized world, whether you're tokenizing commodities, you're tokenizing treasuries, you're tokenizing securities, you're tokenizing, renewable energy assets, all that stuff is going to be really cool for our industry over time. And those are the things that are really exciting, because again, our industry right now is still relatively small. And I think those are the things that make it ubiquitous and for everybody. And I think that's what's really exciting for us in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I love that. I love that answer. And yeah, it's, you hear huge numbers. It's like there's $300 trillion in off-chain value, and it's going to come on chain, and we're all just going to go crazy. But I think realistically, if you just think about what the blockchain does, right? It's more efficient rails, and we've all had that experience of like trying to go to the bank, send a wire, takes 7 days, very expensive, and then you send a stable coin, and like right there, 10x improvement in user experience. And so now, what are you going to have? You're going to have TradFi that comes on chain, and like whether it's DeFi lending and borrowing, whether it's just a transmission of value or whatever that looks like. I think you said it best, right? It's not going to be like DeFi and crypto and TradFi anymore. It's just going to be a convergence of both. And like that is what is so exciting. And I like the saying, a rising tide lifts all ships, as you said. And so I think, it's a great place to be. And you guys, Blockdaemon, you guys are like, right, you're at the core of that, right? You've got the clients that hold the assets, that are bringing those assets on chain. They want somebody that's trusted, that has great security, that's been in this business for a long time, that has staying power. So I'm very excited to see how you guys capitalize on that opportunity.
Yeah, and we're excited to be a part of it. We're at the forefront of it. We're the ones that help make it a reality and bring it to the masses. But it's really in key partnership with folks like you that have the ideas of solving real world problems, and we just help you go to market with that and get the use cases out for people to build on top of. So we're happy to be a part of this continuum and be a part of this key ecosystem.
We appreciate the partnership too, man. So listen, final question. I do this with everybody who comes on the Unshielded podcast. We're unshielded, right? We're not going to censor you. We're not going to tell you what to say. You have the opportunity. I want you to make one. You could share a controversial opinion that you have of the space. You can make a reckless prediction. You could tell me Bitcoin's going $1 million in the next 2 months. Whatever you want. I've set the platform. The floor is yours. Dima, what do you got?
I think we talked on a little bit about it earlier. I think, in the next 5 years, I think institutional DeFi will just become finance. I really do. And I think that's really kind of where it's going. But you have to have all the things that we talked about before. You have to have your compliance, you have to have your security profile, you have to have and maintain your key reputation in the space, but you need the regulatory ecosystem to really be behind you and supportive and establishing the ground rules of how we are going to go to market and how we're going to play. You can't do all this on your own. It takes a village, and we need the regulatory component to really be partners with us in establishing the rules of the road for us to be super successful and bringing this into a finance, just to be able to call it finance versus TradFi, DeFi, all these fun things that we kind of make up all day long.
Man, I was hoping you were going to say like all the regulators were just going to become AI or human robots and we'd be working for them and all that stuff. But look, your answer was good too.
I love AI, but there's a component of me that kind of scares the what out of me too a little bit. So,
oh man, that's funny. That's funny. Well, Dima, I just want to say that I appreciate you coming on the Unshielded podcast. This was a great conversation. Truly value the partnership that we have with Blockdaemon, and honestly, I think this is just the start of great things to come. We're working together on some really cool stuff. I know we're going to be sharing it with the public very soon. But just want to say, really appreciate your time today, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Ian. It's a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you soon and seeing what we can do together. But thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
That wraps up my conversation with Demetrios Skalkotos. We explored the world of DeFi infrastructure, the challenges of building secure and scalable institutional blockchain solutions, and the innovations driving the convergence of TradFi and DeFi. If you found this episode valuable, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for more insights on blockchain, decentralized finance, and the technologies shaping the future of Web3.